A couple were tangled under the sheets and sleeping peacefully. With the sound of birds chirping, her eyes got open and she saw the calming view. Her husband was looking unreal even in his sleep. Her soft fingertips softly brushed against his breast cheek, and an urge built inside her. She pecked his cheek as gently as she could without disturbing his beauty sleep, but his approaching smile was telling her he was already up. Shit. She tried to run away, but his hold around her firmed, and he opened his eyes. Wine was now crimson red due to embarrassment. Don't you think my another cheek deserved the same attention? He was a flirt, and she loved it about him. Cupping his face, she pressed her lips against his other cheek for a second. How about my... He licked his tongue over his plump lips in a teasing way. His eyes were not holding an appropriate meaning that she had to snuggle in his chest. She was too shy to beat his tactics. God, I got such a shy, innocent wifey. He kissed her hair while she stopped herself to chuckle. She was indeed a bit shy but innocent. She read the most phenomenal things and mine had never-ending imaginations that he would be shocked as hell. The loving couple got married 3 months ago. It was an arranged marriage by their parents, but their consent was included. They liked each other at the first ever meeting, and few dates convinced them for the next step. The couple shared the same brain cells, but she was too shy to express, and he always in a mood. They were an arranged couple and taking time to progress their relationship in every way. We should get up. Let's be like that for a while. You are getting late for the office. Fine. His lips molded into a sad pout. She giggled on his cuteness and pecked his nose tip prior to freeing herself from his grasp. Unwillingly, he had to leave the bed since he was not a CEO apparently, but a manager at the bank, and reaching at the time was too important. In the kitchen, Wyan prepared breakfast. Now she was making strawberry milk for Taeyang when he came into his office attire. Do you need any help? No, everything is done. She noticed his predatory steps towards her and a gulp formed in her throat. Her imagination was on peak as he came dangerously closer to her. He bent down a little while placing his palm at the slab. His eyes were on her all the time, but to her surprise, he took the apple from the basket. Is something wrong? No. Then why your cheeks are red? She immediately placed her hand over her burning cheeks and looked away, but a gasp escaped from her mouth. He gave a quick peck on her lips. I do like to fulfill your imaginations. Her eyes widened because indeed it was her wish, even more than that. I'm not a mind reader, but I understand you well. He took a bite of the apple, his eyes not leaving her flustered figure, but to avoid him she turned her back, but it was a wrong move. He hovered over her from the back and leaned closer to her ear. The whole breakfast was a torture for Wyan. Her eyes didn't have courage to meet his intimidating eyes. No matter how inappropriate her thoughts are, but in front of him she was nothing. Take care of yourself for me, you too. With a sweet kiss on her forehead, he left and she saw his faded figure. This man will be a death of me. I hope you come again. She smiled at the customer who returned the book of library where she worked. She updated the data in their computer when excited Emily came to Wyan. She was a colleague and good friend of Wyan with amazing personality. See what I got? She showed Wyan a book with excitement. It was a famous book full of twist, romance and wild imaginations. Seems interesting. That's why I'm giving it to you, and you can do some practicals as well. Practical? With your husband, you silly girl? She winked playfully. Wyan passed her a smile and took the book. She was a sucker for good books with a flood of spices. Thanks. Tell me, how is it and the experience? Emily winked. Now who was going to tell her that relationship was still stuck on kisses? It was Sunday. Taeyang was sleeping and Vine was reading the book in the living area. She didn't want him to see what she was reading, or else his teasing will turn tenfolds. She was too into the book, or say the things were going in the book. The male read really knew how to do perfectly, and it was so satisfying. Reading it, her lower lip occasionally disappeared between her teeth. Her breath was shallow and a naughty smile was dancing on her lips. On the other side, Taeyang, who didn't have his wife on the bed beside him, came out of the room and caught her reading a book. What is she reading? Vine was so drawn into the book that she had no idea her husband coming towards her and peeked inside the book. Shock was written all over his face and eyes were tangled at utmost size. The words, the actions were not near the inappropriate, but... She got startled and book slipped from her grasp. She was caught and didn't have the audacity to look back at him. Now what will he think of me? Her chain of thoughts broke by his gentle hold around her wrist, and the next moment she was pinned against the couch. Taeyang was almost hovering over her. His face was in her neck crook and lips were brushing against her delicate skin. The innocent faces have the most dirtiest mind. She was embarrassed but closed her eyes with a heavy breath as she felt his teeth working on her flesh bit roughly. She wanted to suppress her sound but failed miserably. Giving her a visible mark, he looked up with intensity and slid her hair gently behind the ear. She was silent and hesitating to accept what she wanted. I'm taking it as a yes. He took her in his arms and she didn't try to free herself. It was definitely a yes from her side.